passion, perspective, purpose. At some point, you are going to be asked to share your expertise, perhaps training people or presenting at a conference or even a business pitch. An informative speech is a great foundation for sharing that passion, perspective, and purpose. Now, we have already created outlines for several other speeches. So, as you know, that's the first step. Now, you want a clear introduction as usual, but this time you want to think of your introduction a little bit more like a thesis statement. You are telling us what you're going to talk about, but why we should care as well. Now, once you have that strong introduction sentence, that thesis statement, you're going to transition to the body. And that body sentence is going to transition us into the meat of your presentation. What are you telling us about? What are you informing us on? Now, a solid informative speech includes sources because that's what makes you credible. So you want to be sure that you have at least 3 strong sources that you are going to refer to as you're doing your presentation. At the end of your presentation, you're going to want to be sure to have those sources cited in MLA format. And that will follow your conclusion, which as usual sums everything up so that we go back to that. This is what we talked about, this is why we should care, and these are the details. So, basic speech outline. Once you get that outline completed, the next step is to develop and create a slideshow. Now, in the professional world, we call that slideshow a deck. You can use whatever format you wish. Professionals tend to use PowerPoint. Keynote, Prezi, all of those work well. It's up to you. The key thing is how you organize that slideshow. So I'm going to use one that I created as an informative speech for a school that I once worked at. So as you can see, my introduction slide is very clear. I've got pictures of my students, the logo from the school, and you can see it says, "It takes a village academy, it takes a whole village to raise a child." That was the topic of my informative speech. If you go to the next page, you can see that I'm going to talk about academic enrichment, and I have a little chart with some rationale. That's what I mean by using sources, references to support what you're saying. Notice, I did not write out everything I was going to say to my audience on this slide, but I have the key things I want to refer to keep me on track. The second page, attendance. So I was speaking to parents about how our programs are increasing attendance, which is why they're important and why she would get their students signed up. Again, you'll notice there are no words on this slide other than the chart that I'm going to refer to. Family engagement. Again, I'm using rationale and chart format. Keep in mind, this was an informative speech for parents and administrators and the people who support our grants that pay for a lot of these programming. In knowing my audience, I adjusted my presentation accordingly. Images help bring things to life. Video clips are great, but you want to use them to support your message, not instead of you sharing your message. Next, you'll see school environment. You'll notice that I've got pictures of students participating in the programs. I'm highlighting the programs, but relying on my expertise to share the information behind those programs. Health and mental health, you'll notice I have some contact information. Another image. I always recommend at least one image or graph on each slide. Community partnerships. This is a little bit more wordy because I had to be sure not to forget to mention any of these. And notice I have the names of the partners in bold so that encourages the audience to focus on those partners. Now, this is a little wordy, I'll admit. This is page 8, and this is something that I had to use from a school site. Sometimes you're going to have a slide that might have a little bit more information and be a little wordy. 1 out of 9 is fine. What you don't want is all 9 slides having paragraphs and you simply reading from the slide. At that point, I don't need you to present to me, just send me the slideshow and I can read it on my own. Also, it's not very interesting. Share your passion, share that purpose, get us involved, and give us those different ways in which we can get involved. We all learn differently. We have 5 senses. The more you can activate those 5 senses with your presentation, the more likely you're keeping your audience engaged. And you will notice my concluding slide. Again, I'm presenting to parents and administrators, so pictures of kids doing fun things, doing good things. And I, of course, summed up as a conclusion with all the great things that we were doing currently at the school and all the goals that we had for the school in the coming year, which is why the parents and administration should get involved and support the work that we were doing. And so that is a sample. You'll notice there's a couple of different slideshow samples in here, different styles, different topics. So once you get your outline, that helps you know what you need to include in your slideshow. I recommend you're going to need at least 5 slides, but I don't think you need any more than 10 for a 4 to 6 minute presentation. And then I would include your works cited page at the end. So you can see this works cited page here. This is MLA format. If you want some reference point, you can go to the Purdue OWL site, which is showing up below. And that gives you detailed breakdowns of every type of source you can think of and how to cite it correctly. Now, you'll notice the basic works cited page, author's last name, first, comma, first name. You're going to organize this by the author's last name in alphabetical order. If your source doesn't have an author, for instance, perhaps it's a documentary, then you're going to list it in alphabetical order by the title. Okay. Second thing I often notice, you do not indent the first line, but you do indent the second or third line in a citation. So be mindful of format. It's very important when it comes to a works cited page. Times New Roman, 12-point font. Take a look through here. You can see the different types of citations. And again, you can go to that website if you need more information. If you are accessing your source online, you will notice that you need to have an accessed date. And that access date is the last date that you went to the site. The other thing I would say is you need to have at least 2 different types of sources. Now, you can access them all online, but one might be the New York Times, which is a newspaper, and one might be up here. You can see this is a review. Those are 2 different types of sources. You access them online, but they're different. So journals, magazines, books, interviews, documentaries, all of those things are great sources, and the Purdue OWL site can tell you exactly how to cite them. So that's the basics of an informative speech. And as you prepare and go along with this, I would just say, remember, you are the expert in your topic. So share your passion, your perspective, and your purpose, and you will have a wonderful informative speech.